In everyone's life, there are these moments, these defining moments, moments in which we must make a choice. We must choose. We must decide. And when these moments come, either we define those moments or those moments define us. In 1970, a group of scientists got together at NASA and they had a problem. They had 3 astronauts in Apollo 13 who didn't have enough oxygen to make it home. And what they were able to do was they were able to take these random tools and these random things that they had on the shuttle, and they were able to create a procedure in order to connect a round peg and a square hole, so that the astronauts would have enough oxygen to make it back to Earth. While the decisions we make every day aren't as life-threatening or aren't as dangerous as those on Apollo 13, it seems like I'm always battling round pegs and square holes. The most powerful part of Power BI is the ability to create relationships between data. It gives us the ability to eliminate the round peg and the square hole, and it gives us the ability to take the right data and take the right tools. But most importantly, and what I hope you take out from the next 8 minutes, is it gives you the ability to make the right decision. So the first thing we need to do is let's look at the tools we have at our disposal. In this demo, we're going to use Power View, Power Pivot, Excel 2013, Power Map, and we're doing the whole thing with Microsoft Surface Pro 2. Really, the idea here is we're going to take 2 completely different data sets. We're going to take some work-related data sets like how much money we're getting from our customers and how much expense we have from Microsoft Dynamics 2012. I also downloaded all of my Facebook activity for the last 8 years. We're going to link that all up through zip codes, and we're going to compare it. So now I'm going to go ahead and take you into the data model that I built. We built this in Power Pivot, and we tried to use 5 different connections. So first, we're going to look at our customer invoice data. So what our customers paid us out in revenue. Basically, this is we're pulling that from Cube Data or SSAS. Our zip codes are being pulled from an OData feed out of our AX database. And a big thanks to MCA Connect for letting me use their SharePoint and their database here. The next thing is I wrote a SQL query in order to bring in vendor invoice data. So again, we're using 5 different sources, 5 different connections in order to bring in this data. Power Query. I use Power Query. Power Query out of the box already has a connection to Facebook. So I brought in all my Facebook posts for the last 8 years, since the beginning of time. And I link those up to 10 major life events. So in the final tab here, I created a link tab from Excel. So we have OData feeds, cubes, SQL, Power Query. And in this example here, I'm showing you how to connect to Power Query. I think this tool is an amazing tool. And the fact that it already links to Facebook is pretty amazing. So now you just say load into my data model. And as you can see here, I have loaded this one. This is my actual one here. I'm going to rename it, and I'm going to hide it because I like to hide my query here. But you can see that it is already loaded into my database. So once I get all these loaded into my database, now it's just a matter of creating relationships. And what you really want to do is try to figure out what is the hub in the middle of the wheel. What are the one set of attributes we're trying to report off of? In this case, it's going to be location. So if you look at this, it looks very similar now to the drawing I made. So I always say draw it out first before you create it. But if you notice, I go from many to 1, the 1 being the zip code, and it starts spreading out from there. So now I'm going to go ahead and we're going to build just a quick Power Pivot table here. So I'm going to build a quick pivot table. I'm going to come in and back into my model, and I'm going to say create pivot table. And all I'm going to do now is just bring in the 3 measures from the 3 different data sources. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in state. So this is just a real simple one. If I had time, I would have showed you how to do DAX measures, and we would have done some calculated fields and done some really neat things. But I'm just dragging in the measures here. This maybe isn't best practice, but it's definitely just good to see the data. So I'm bringing in how much our customers gave us, how much we spent, and then I'm bringing in a count of just the 10 life events or the 12 life events that I brought in links for from Facebook. So now I double click on my Texas customers, and now I can see every invoice that my customers that I've gotten from any customer in the state of Texas. So again, we're building relationships, and you can see the power of just bringing the right data, creating the right relationships, and what you can do with the power of Power BI. So now I'm going to go ahead and save that to my desktop, and we'll go ahead and come back to that here in a second. Yeah, so this is a great way to report kind of lists of data. The next part is next thing we're going to look at here is the second tool, which is Power View, which is my favorite tool out of the Power BI stack. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and bring in my zip code data here, and I'm going to go ahead and bring in my ID or my description, and I'm creating a map of those 12 important places. So in this is kind of my gimmicky piece of the demo here, but I think it's really neat what you can do with all your Facebook links. So if you notice, I'm going to go ahead and bring in the description here. So now it's going to make my map. I can sort by the description. So you notice I've got a bunch of different traits in there, and then I'm going to bring in a state as a filter, so I can filter the map and I can filter the table I'm about to create by state. So I'm going to go and bring in the city, the state. But then here's the key part. I'm going to bring in the link. So I have the actual hyperlink. And when you go to the Power Pivot model, you can change the format of that column to be a web URL link. So now, as I go through the map, I could do a timeline here if I wanted to and see where I went first and where I went second. The power of this is pretty neat. So I'm going to go ahead and save this as another file here. Go ahead and say save. So now if you notice, I reformatted this. I cleaned it up just for the sake of time. But now I'm going to come in here and you'll see that I'm going to filter by just the state of Texas to see, what major events in my life happened in Texas here. So if I click on them, you can see the description. And then what's nice is when I click on it, if you notice, it filters my table down below. Well, I click on the link and now you can see that here in 2009, I was playing an open mic night. And that was my saxophone player there. So now if I click on one here from, looks like Tracy, California, where I grew up, the 209, you'll notice here that, my dad's golf ball, there's 25 yards between us here. And since dad's the only one watching this video, just wanted to, it's a major event that, I'm 25 yards longer off the tee than my dad. So thought that was important to note. Here's the first post I ever had on Facebook. I put it in when I was studying abroad in Oxford. So as you notice, I'm mapping all these data points, and there's nothing in here that you can't do. I'm not a computer science major. Here's a connection to my blog I posted when I was in Europe. So a little 5 good minutes we have in Microsoft Dynamics AX for MCA Connect. But if you notice, the power of this, what could you do with this? And as you notice here, in June 14th, we're expecting a child. So again, major moment for us. Here's a second report I built in the second tab, and this is more dealing with the vendor and customer spend, but as you can see, I included my metrics down below as well. So what I'm saying is, show me all of the spend and all the revenue and all the expense that my company had in the state of California, the state of Texas, and you notice it aggregates my life events down there as well. So the last thing I'm going to show you here is kind of this 3D power map, and it's what you saw at the opening demo. But what's nice is the things in green are my revenue. Things in red are my invoices, and then my life events show up as bubbles. So I've pretty much mapped out all of this data. I've taken a bunch of round pegs and a bunch of square holes, and I've visualized the data together so that we can easily see it on this map, and we could drill into it, and we could figure out how much we spent in this zip code, this city, this state, and figure out the customer. But as you can imagine, this is a really, really powerful tool. And it's just a matter of creating the right relationships to surface your data. And really the possibilities are endless with what you want to do. I took two completely different data sets, but there's a lot of value and a lot of benefit, and there's a lot of power from the Power BI stack. In everyone's life, there are these moments, defining moments in which we must make a choice, we must choose, we must decide, and hopefully what you've seen today is whether or not we're talking about how much we paid our vendors or at work, how much revenue we got from customers, or what we've done on Facebook and where we've been the last 8 years. Hopefully what you can see is Power BI is a great tool to define relationships between your data, and that it's a tool that can help you make the right decision so that when that defining moment comes, you define the moment instead of letting that moment define you.